Alright, peace. I am Tahuti Ra'iteru. And this is the truth about the chakras, Kundalini, and everything you need to know, part 2. And if you haven't seen part 1, check that out. Okay, so let's get straight into this. How to activate the 7 chakras. Well, the first 3 lower chakras are already activated. The ones that need to be activated are the higher chakras such as the heart chakra, throat chakra, Ajna Chakra, Nirvana Chakra, and the Sahasrara Chakra. But you need to activate all of your chakras in order to be balanced. But because the heart chakra is the center chakra, that is the main one that needs to be activated and harmonized first before you can even begin thinking about activating the other higher chakras. Also, binaural beats will not activate your chakras, as the chakras are gateways to consciousness, and you must raise your consciousness to that level of that chakra on your own in order to activate it. Now, in Indian philosophy, they have something called the 3 granthis, which means knots. These granthis are psychological and emotional blockages that stop you from raising your consciousness and ultimately hinders your spiritual development. In these 3 granthis, ignorance and maya, which means illusion, is particularly strong. Now, the 3 granthis are located in the chakras where the Sushumna, Ida and Pingala nadis meet, which is the root chakra, the heart chakra and the Ajna Chakra. The first knot is called the Brahma Granthi, which is located at the root chakra. This knot deals with a person's attachment to the physical and gaining physical pleasures. This knot makes a person reject truth and parade ignorance. Now, the majority of this planet are stuck on this Brahma Granthi, so they can't even get past their attachment to the physical, which is why they reject spirituality and anyone who practices it. Then the next knot is called the Vishnu Granthi, which is located in the heart chakra, and this knot deals with your emotional attachments, where emotions such as hatred, greed and jealousy can manifest. So because of this, there are some people who raise their consciousness past the root chakra, they activate the heart chakra but get stuck on the heart chakra, and they get caught up in their emotions and feelings towards others. Now, the final knot is called the Rudra Granthi, and this is located in the Ajna Chakra. This knot deals with intelligence and a person's attachments and obsession with gaining knowledge. These people activate the third eye, but they get so focused on trying to pierce the veil, they actually create a new veil subsequent to the one they just removed. So these people never really reach the bliss and peacefulness of the crown chakra. And the whole point of this spirituality is for you to find peace and become complacent within yourself. The reason why we want to seek truth in the first place is to silence that nagging noise within our inner being that's telling us something isn't right. And once you find this truth, you're supposed to become more peaceful, not obsessed with finding more truth. But a person's consciousness wouldn't operate in just one chakra alone. Their consciousness would usually be present in more than one, but they will have a main chakra that they operate in, and that will be the more dominant chakra. Furthermore, each chakra has deities that are associated with it. But in Sanskrit, these are known as Devata, which means deity. And these deities are located within the chakra and they govern the consciousness of that chakra. So imagine each chakra like a gateway, and guarding the gateway are these deities. And in order for you to raise your consciousness past the level of that chakra or gateway, you must answer to these deities. But out of all the deities, there is always one deity that is the main gatekeeper, and coincidentally, in all of the chakras, each gatekeeper is a female deity, and the male deities basically act like bodyguards. So let's start with the heart chakra. In order to activate the heart chakra, you have to raise your consciousness to the attributes associated with the heart chakra. So because the heart chakra deals with love, you have to become conscious of the love. So this means that you have to be aware of the lack of love that is in the world, and also the lack of love within yourself. So the best way to do this is to become health conscious. In other words, know what you are eating, as this shows that you care about what you're putting into your body. You love yourself enough to not put harmful substances in your body. This activates the heart chakra. As you are now conscious of the love, you become conscious of the lack of love within yourself. This is why there is no coincidence that most people start out their spiritual journey as vegans or vegetarians, as they are health conscious. So they care about what they're putting into their bodies. So in turn, they care about and love themselves. But that is the first step to activating the heart chakra. The second step to fully activating the heart chakra, you must take this newly found love for yourself and express it towards others. So in other words, you should care about what other people put into their bodies, and you should try to convince them and show them the harm they are doing to their bodies. And whether they listen to you or not, that doesn't matter. All that matters is that you care enough for them to show them the error of their ways. And by the time you do that, your heart chakra will be fully activated. Furthermore, the only downside to this method is that a lot of vegans and vegetarians who become health conscious, there is a possibility that they can get stuck under heart chakra. So they will constantly be clouded by their feelings and emotions, and they will not be able to see the bigger picture. And they may take part in protests and various different events that promote veganism, as they think the world would be a better place if everybody was vegan. And they go around with their head held high thinking that they are making a difference and change to the world just because they don't eat meat. Never mind all the other stuff that's going on in the world, let's just focus on the meat. So as a result, they will never be able to accept any truth that is outside the vegan fantasy that they have created for themselves. Furthermore, the deities associated with the heart chakra are Vayu, Isha and Kakini. But the most important deity is Kakini, as she is the gatekeeper. So she is who you have to answer to if you want to raise your consciousness past the heart chakra. But what's most important is that Kakini holds a noose in her hand, which in Sanskrit is called parza, which means rope or noose. So what this means is that in order to raise your consciousness past the level of the heart chakra, you will have to kill yourself. But it doesn't mean literally kill yourself. What it is talking about is your ego, which is Amkar, your human identity. You must kill that aspect of yourself. But when you kill your ego, it doesn't go away. All it means is that you have won the battle with the aspect of your mind, and now you are in charge of your ego rather than it being in charge of you. So another way to activate the heart chakra is you must take control of your ego. So the person you think you are, you must discard of that person as they don't exist anymore. So in other words, stop trying to be something that you are not, and instead be yourself. So the first step to taking control of your ego is to stop judging people. Now what do I mean by this? When I say stop judging people, I'm talking about prejudice. So for example, going around calling people demons when you know nothing about them, that is prejudice. But as humans, we can't help but form opinions about other people. But the difference between having an opinion about someone and prejudice is that prejudice is when you condemn someone based solely on the opinion that you have of them. So it's okay to have opinions about people, but don't condemn that person based on the opinion you have of them without fully understanding that person first. So now the reason why I say you should stop judging people is because the reason why we judge people is because we think that we are better than them. We think that we are somebody. For example, if you had a group of overweight people in a room, neither one person in that room will criticize the other for being overweight, as they are all overweight, so they won't think that they are better than each other. So when you stop judging other people, you also stop judging yourself, because somewhere down the line you judged yourself and declared that you were better than everybody. Then you started to judge other people as it was your ego that told you to judge yourself. So you thought that you were somebody, and if you are somebody, everybody else becomes nobody. As the sole purpose of the ego is to exist, it wants to be the only thing that exists. The ego wants to be the fastest man in the world. The ego wants to climb the highest mountain. The ego wants to be the only one and the only thing in existence. But because it is not, it has to try and make it seem that it is. And you do this by judging other people and putting them down to bring yourself up. So now when you stop judging other people, you also stop judging yourself. So now you no longer have an inflated ego. And when you no longer have an inflated ego, you no longer care what other people think. As the reason why you care what other people think is because you think that you are somebody. So when someone tells you that you are not somebody, this deeply hurts you, because you thought that you were somebody. So the key thing here is to drop the ego, as once you have done this and no longer think that you are somebody and that you are just nobody, you now become one with everybody. As you can relate to them now because you are on their level and don't think that you are better than them. So it is now easier to open your heart to them and love them because you are now on the same level as them. But as I said, you cannot get rid of the ego completely. All you can do is suppress it and keep it in check. As we all have our differences and like to be different, as it is our ego which allows us to be different. Without it, we would just be clones. But don't let those differences get to your head. For example, a healthy ego is when you go to the store to buy some clothes, but you may choose to buy the orange shirt because everyone you know has the green shirt, as you want to be different, and that is fine. It is good to want to be different. Furthermore, there are people who tend to get engulfed by their ego, and what happens is that they develop an inflated sense of self, so they believe themselves to be more than what they actually are. Also, normally when this happens, the person lets the ego make decisions for them, but what they don't realize is that the ego is not very smart, because as I mentioned in part 1, there are 4 elements of the mind, one of which is buddhi, which means intellect, and the other is amkar, which is the ego. But from buddhi is where our intelligence comes from, not from amkar. The ego alone is not very smart. For example, the ego may want to manifest the biggest house, but what the ego doesn't take into consideration is that the bigger house will have a bigger garden and somebody has to cut that grass. So that will be more work for you, Or instead, you may hire someone to cut the grass for you, but then you would need more money, so you have to work longer hours. So now you have less time to spend in your big house and big garden. On the other hand, when you understand how big the universe is and that we're living in the third dimension, we're basically not even a grain of sand in comparison with the size and scope of the entire universe. But yet still you have people who believe themselves to be all this and all that just because they live in a mansion. But a mansion doesn't mean shit, because the universe is huge. The biggest mansion in the world doesn't even make up 0.01% of the entire universe. And then you got these other people who think they're getting it in just because they're in a Ferrari. But you got beings on the 4th and 5th dimension flying. So again, a Ferrari doesn't mean shit in comparison with the entire universe and other dimensions. Also, when you understand quantum physics and that we're living in a parallel universe, meaning that there is another universe running simultaneously with this universe. So really, the things that we take pride down here are just insignificant. So my point here is that don't let your ego get overly inflated, because we ain't shit down in this third dimension. We're not even a grain of sand. So having an inflated ego is really just petty and foolish. Basically, we need to start thinking astronomically about this. We need to start seeing the bigger picture rather than getting caught up in trivial things that ultimately have no real significance when you understand how deep this rabbit hole goes. Now, the next chakra that needs to be activated is the throat chakra, but most people seem to think that this chakra is already activated because a person is able to communicate. But the throat chakra is more than just communication. The throat chakra deals with self-expression and expressing your true feelings, and for most people it takes them years before they are able to effectively do this, where they are able to communicate honesty and integrity from their inner being. Now, the deities within the throat chakra are Ambara, Sadashiva and Shakini. Shakini is the female deity and she is the gatekeeper, so she is the one that you must answer to if you want to raise your consciousness past the throat chakra. Also again, Shakini and Ambara are holding the Padasa, which is the noose, so again you have to kill an aspect of yourself in order to reach the level of the throat chakra. In this case, it would be the aspect of your ego stopping you from expressing your true feelings through the throat chakra. It is your ego that makes you hold back certain things that don't fit the character that the ego knows itself to be. So now, in order to activate the throat chakra, you must utilize the love from the heart chakra and allow this to envelop your entire being and just let the words flow out. Don't hold anything back. Don't let your ego stop you from expressing your true feelings. You must drop all fear of public opinion, because it is this fear of public opinion and scrutiny that makes people not want to express their true feelings or express anything at all. Now, once you're able to overcome your fear of public opinion, then you must use the love you have for others and communicate with them. Take the time out to answer their questions. Also, don't be afraid to give them advice, especially in a field or topic that you have a lot of experience in. You must also humble yourself and listen to them. So instead of listening to your own needs, you should be able to listen to their needs. Then use the love from your heart chakra and try to help them, and this will help with your overall communication, as a good communicator is also a good listener. Another way to activate the throat chakra is to utilize the love you have for yourself to further understand yourself and find your true self. You can do this by expressing this newfound love for yourself through engaging in activities and hobbies. Then, depending on the activities you choose to do, you should try to understand why you like to do them. Also, another good thing to do is to spend some time alone once in a while, away from distractions, and just focus on self. Just be alone with your own thoughts and try to understand yourself. Then once you do this, you'll be able to come out of your shell and express your true self. And with the newfound love from the heart chakra, you are not afraid to express this and let people know who you are. So as you can see, the throat chakra is based on the love from the heart chakra. So without the heart chakra activated, you cannot activate the throat chakra. Then next is the Ajna Chakra. And this chakra only has one deity, which is Hakini Shakti, which is a female deity. So she is a deity that you must answer to if you want to access and awaken the Ajna Chakra or third eye chakra. But in this chakra, Hakini doesn't hold the Parasa, which is a noose, because by the time you reach the Ajna Chakra, you would have already subdued your ego and now are ready to seek wisdom. So in order to activate the Ajna Chakra or third eye chakra, as a lot of people seem to want to activate the third eye, that seems to be the new craze right now. So here you go. If you want to activate the third eye, you must first stop trying to activate the third eye. Stop trying to seek information about activating the third eye. As the reason why you are doing this is because you want to activate it for personal gain, as you think you're going to get some special powers or something. If you are one of these people, you are never going to activate the third eye. Because if your third eye was already active, you would know that no one has any single method that will activate the third eye, as everybody's at different levels of consciousness. So what worked for them won't work for you. So in other words, nobody can tell you how to activate your third eye. That is something that you must do on your own. And there isn't a special food that can activate your third eye either. So to you people who want to activate the third eye, you need to go back to the heart chakra and find the love, because somewhere down the line you lost the love. You lost the real reason of why you need an activated third eye, which is to help people. You receive the benefits of the third eye so that way you can utilize them to help people. You must aid the people who don't have the eyes to see. So in other words, you will only activate the third eye based on the love you have for other people, as you need a positive reason to want to activate it. For example, a mother who loves her children will watch over them, but because the love of her children is so great, she would need a much sharper perception in order to meet the requirement of her love and affection for her children and to protect them from harm. So this mother will activate her third eye because she needs it in order to discern from truths, so that way she can protect her children from lies. So as you can see, the third eye is based on the heart chakra, as you are only activate based on your love you have for people. You also need to activate throat chakra, as there is no point in having a sharper perception and good discernment if you can't tell people about it and use it to help people who don't have a sharper perception. Another important factor is that you need to make sure you have your ego in check to utilize the third eye to its fullest capabilities, as the ego may cloud your judgment, but the ego will affect all your chakras, and it is important to subdue the ego. Also, from my experience, you know when you're developing the third eye is when you start to notice things that you may have seen many times before, but you suddenly notice it again, like it was the first time you have seen it and it stands out. Or you may notice something about it that you never noticed before, and then you may be saying, how did I not see this before? So this is when you know that you are developing your third eye, as the reason you can see it now is because you never had the eyes to see it before. But truth be told, only you can know when you activate the third eye. And if someone tries to create a scenario where they show you some type of object and they say, if you can see this, then your third eye is open, 9 times out of 10 you are being deceived. Because the third eye, simply put, is the ability to see something for yourself. And if I point at the object for you and tell you this is what you are supposed to be seeing, then that defeats the whole purpose of the third eye. For example, if I show you an object and say, hey, look at this. If you can see this object glowing, then your third eye is open. But how can your third eye be open if I have just told you what you are meant to see? Because if I tell you that you are supposed to see the object glow, then naturally you are going to be looking for a glow. And if you look hard enough, eventually you will see it. So if you are caught in a situation where someone tells you what you are meant to be seeing, then your third eye is not activated and you are being deceived. Another thing is that people seem to think that psychedelic drugs will activate the third eye, when the truth is that psychedelic drugs don't actually activate the third eye. All they do is give you a temporary window of perception. So for example, imagine the chakra as the doorway to a house, but by using drugs you don't get through the door, you only get to peer through the window. And what happens when you peer through a window? Somebody will come and either close that window or cover it up. So you have to try and find another way to see into the house. So like any drug, each time it is used, the effects get less and less to the point where you have to increase the dosage. And by the time the dosage is increased, you are actually now destroying yourself rather than bettering yourself. So psychedelic drugs can actually be detrimental because the chakras are gateways to consciousness. So the only way you are granted access to that gateway is for you to raise the consciousness to that level of that chakra on your own. So the fact that someone will want to skip past the task of raising their consciousness shows that this person doesn't actually want to seek enlightenment, but wants to harness the abilities of the chakras for personal gain. And by doing so, they will actually block up the chakra and pull them further away from activating it, simply because they couldn't get past their ego and wait like everyone else. So in order to activate the third eye, you have to be sincere and have a good reason to want to activate it. As most people who want to activate the third eye do it purely for their extrasensory perception. They don't care about the consciousness, and the fact that they are seeking it shows that they are not sincere and will not receive the benefits. Now finally, in order to activate the Sahasrara crown chakra located above the head, you must first activate the Nirvana chakra, which is the crown center located on the top of the head. And once you do this, then the Sahasrara chakra will activate. This is because the Nirvana chakra comes from the Sahasrara chakra, as each of the 6 major chakras have all the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet on their petals. And there are 50 letters in the Sanskrit alphabet. Now these 50 letters are also 50 mantric sounds, and these 50 mantric sounds manifest in the Sahasrara chakra. But these 50 mantric sounds manifest as 20 strengths, so the petals of the Sahasrara chakra are arranged by 20 rows of 50 petals, containing one of the 50 mantric sounds. Now in Hindu cosmology, it is said that sound is the precursor of light, and it is sound which creates light. So these 50 mantric sounds in 20 strengths manifest as 1000 light beams, which thus bears witness to the 1000 petaled lotus of the Sahasrara chakra. So this is why the Sahasrara chakra contains all spectrums of light. Now in Hindu mythology, the sun god Surya is a representation of the Sahasrara chakra, as the sun god Surya is said to radiate 1000 light beams and exists in 100 forms, and these 100 forms thus become the 100 petaled lotus of the Nirvana chakra. So this shows you how Nirvana comes from Sahasrara. Also, there are no gatekeepers in the Nirvana chakra or Sahasrara chakra. Now the Nirvana chakra is the seat of D, which is the concentrated mind, and is also the seat of Amkar, which is the ego. Now there are 4 stages of concentration discussed in the Yoga Sutras by sage Patanjali. The first is Avadana, which means attention. The second stage is Dharana, which means concentration. The third stage is Dhyana, which means meditation. Then the fourth stage is known as Samadhi, which means evenness. Samadhi is a state of transcendental awareness where only the object in question exists in the mind, and you reach a stillness of the mind. Samadhi is the goal of yoga and meditation. But this state of awareness is only achieved through deep meditation. Also during Samadhi, your breath becomes very subtle and your heart rate slows down. This is because mental activity slows down, so bodily functions also slow down. Also, depending on the development of a person will determine how long it would take for them to reach Samadhi. So in other words, attention leads to concentration, then concentration leads to meditation, and meditation leads to Samadhi. But the 3 primal stages of the concentrated mind, which include concentration, meditation, and Samadhi, are classed as a yoga practice known as Samyama, which means holding together or binding. But through the practice of Samyama, a yogi is able to reach an even higher state of consciousness known in the Yoga Sutras as Samprajnata Samadhi, which means distinguished. So this is called distinguished Samadhi. Now there are 4 stages to achieving distinguished Samadhi. The first stage is called Savitarka Samadhi, which basically means with doubt or confusion. This is where the mind is focused on a gross object, but is still accompanied by other activities of the mind. And in this stage, the mind is trying to rationally analyze the object, but there is still some confusion, such as understanding the 5 elements of earth, water, fire, air, and akasha or ether. And in this picture, you see the symbols of those 5 elements. Then the second stage is called Savikara Samadhi, which means reflection or reasoning. This is where knowledgeable thoughts and feelings pass through the mind, and now the mind focuses on the subtle elements of an object, such as odor, flavor, form, touch, and sound. Then the third stage is called Sa-ananda Samadhi, which means with bliss. So in this stage, the mind reaches a pure bliss and joyful state of consciousness, which is free from the gross and subtle elements. In this stage, the mind focuses on the forms of deities or devatas. Then the last stage is known as Sa-asmiti Samadhi, which is made up of 2 words. The first word is Asmi, which means I am, and Vritti, which means state. So Sa-asmiti means the state of I-ness. This is where the mind becomes conscious of the pure self, and the object of meditation no longer exists, and now the mind itself becomes the object of meditation. This is true Samadhi. But after Samprajnata Samadhi, there is an even higher state of Samadhi called Asamprajnata Samadhi. This is complete Samadhi. In this stage of Samadhi, a person's consciousness is completely absorbed and the mind no longer exists. And now your spirit unites with the formless absolute known as Brahman. Lastly, in Hindu philosophy, it says that we are not the mind, but we are the observer witnessing the mind. Now, the Nirvana chakra is activated involuntarily, hence why there are no gatekeepers in the Nirvana chakra. It will activate once you've activated and harmonized the other chakras, but the main chakra that influences the activation of the Nirvana chakra is the Ajna Chakra. This is because the Ajna Chakra deals with self-realization, and there is a level of focus and concentration needed to fully realize yourself. And this element of concentration and focus is inherent in the Nirvana chakra. So now the way that this chakra is activated, you must learn to trust your intuition and block out unnecessary thoughts that may enter your mind. You must take control of your mind and learn how to focus on the self. By doing this, you will eventually reach a pure bliss state of consciousness, where the external things in your life that used to plague your mind now seem insignificant. This is when you know that you have activated the Sahasrara chakra. Also, there are some people who are born with certain chakras being more developed, thus making it easier for them to activate that chakra when they are ready. This may be due to them harmonizing the chakra in a past life, or they were very spiritual in their past lives, as the etheric body carries over into the next incarnation along with the other subtle bodies. So a person may also come back with a high level of chi. This is because they would have had a more developed etheric body that was larger, so they were able to store more chi. For example, a person may be born with a more developed third eye, and this may have been developed in a past life, so when it comes time for them to activate their third eye, it will be much easier for them to do so, and their awareness will be on a much higher level. And it will seem like this person's awareness just spikes overnight. Also, because of this more developed third eye, this person would also have a more developed mental body, and they would have a lot of knowledge stored in it, so this person may be very intellectual and intuitive from a young age. On the other hand, some people can be born with a more developed heart chakra, so they would naturally be strong and show a lot of resilience from an early age. But most likely the same people who are born with a more developed third eye are also born with a more developed heart chakra, as they both go hand in hand, but the chakras will not activate overnight. It takes time and a level of patience. But on a final note, I just want to say that the heart chakra is really the main chakra, as without the heart chakra activated and harmonious, you would not be able to access any of the higher chakras, and also your lower chakras will be affected as well. As the heart chakra is so vast and important because it is the center chakra and a direct link between your higher chakras and your lower chakras. But see, what these new ages tend to do is they put a lot of emphasis on the third eye, and they talk about all the benefits of the third eye. But what they don't tell you is that the heart chakra is really the main chakra, and that is a chakra that must be mastered above all. But this just shows you how this new age movement is really just a deception to stop you from reaching your fullest potential, as they want you to focus on the benefits of spirituality for selfish reasons rather than improving yourself and to help aid in the improvement of others. Alright, then let's go to the next one. How to raise your vibration. A person's vibration depends on the level of consciousness, and your level of consciousness is determined by the degree at which your chakras are developed, which also pertains to the size and scope of your aura field. Now, a more conscious person will have more developed chakras, so they will take in and give out more pranic energy, which then fills their aura field, thus giving them a higher vibration. Whereas people who are unconscious or dead, they have underdeveloped chakras, and they will have a weaker aura field, so they will have little to no vibration. There are also many different methods and things you can do to help raise your vibration, but certain things that may help to raise one person's vibration may not work for you, so it all depends on the person. One of the methods to raise your vibration is to take part in a physical activity such as sports, martial arts or lifting weights in a workout regime, as this helps with the flow of prana throughout the body, which is the life force energy that keeps you alive. But see, some methods may work for some people but not for others. As growing up, I used to play a lot of sports, as I had so much energy that I needed a way to get it out. I pretty much had a physical activity planned every day of the week. But some people may have not liked to be as active as I was, as they may have felt drained, as they may have not had the type of energy reserves that I had. But on the other hand, some people like to work out and lift weights as it makes them feel good, and it is a good way for them to release their energy. But again, this may not work for some people, as some people don't like lifting weights as it doesn't make them feel good. For example, in my case, lifting weights was actually detrimental to my spirituality, as I was seeing results very quickly, and I started to like what I was seeing, and I wanted more. So I was doing it more for looks rather than a way to relieve energy and uplift myself spiritually. So this was detrimental to my spirituality, and because of this, I had to stop lifting weights as part of my spiritual journey. So this shows you how certain methods work for some people but not for others. Another way to raise your vibration is to sing or dance, as these are all forms of self-expression, and through expressing yourself helps the flow of vital energy throughout the body, and this can also help to release blocked energy in the chakras. Furthermore, there are some people who can't sing nor can they dance, but this doesn't mean that they can't raise their vibration through singing and dancing, as the spirit doesn't care whether you can sing or dance, as long as you are expressing yourself and are feeling good when you are doing it. But if you don't feel comfortable doing any of those things, you can express yourself through creation, such as drawing, painting, or simply make something. Use your creative mind, something that we are all born with, and just create something. It doesn't matter what you create, as long as you're using your intuitive, creative mind to do it, then that is all that matters. Meditation also helps to raise your vibration, because meditation allows you to focus all your energy and attention on one singular point. So this allows you to concentrate your energy and gain control of your prana. As your energy goes where your attention flows, this especially works well if combined with various breathing techniques, as you can help to slow down your bodily functions and relax the mind to ultimately reach samadhi, which is the stillness of the mind. Furthermore, the difference between a high vibrational person and a low vibrational person is that a low vibrational person allows trivial things to grab their attention, and they tend to focus their attention on insignificant things, thus wasting their energy. But a more high vibrational person will be able to choose the correct situations to give their energy to. So they will be able to have better control over their energy, and they can use it to better themselves or to help the people around them. There are also certain foods that can raise your vibration. These foods mainly being fruits and fruit juices, as they offer so much flavor and texture that tingles your taste buds. This raises your vibration because the tongue is the sense organ linked to taste, and the sense of taste is linked to the sex chakra. It is also linked to the subtle element of flavor, and from the sex chakra is where we get our vitality from. So depending on the type of food we put into our mouths, whether it tastes good or not, or has the right texture, will stimulate the sex chakra, and this stimulation makes us feel good, so much so that it's almost orgasmic. So because of this, it raises a person's sexual energy and also vitality. Furthermore, it is the flavors and textures of food come into contact with your tongue which raises your vibration, so it really doesn't matter if the food is organic or non-organic. But because it is the flavors and textures that raises your vibration, some man-made foods can raise your vibration as well. Foods such as ice cream and cake. But because these are man-made foods, their flavor comes from refined sugars and other artificial flavorings, so they only give you a temporary boost in your vibration. And also the food makes you feel good, but only for a short period of time, so before you know it, you have to keep coming back to it just to get that boost once again. So now it becomes addictive, and you become so low vibration to the point where you're dependent on these foods. But if you eat natural fruits and drink natural fruit juices, and this will give you a long-lasting sensation that keeps you satisfied, so you don't have to keep coming back to it and get addicted to it. Also, a person's vibration is synonymous with how a person feels, as someone who is very vibrant will also feel good about themselves, and they will radiate this feeling which can uplift and raise the vibration of the people around them. But the food you put into your body is very important in keeping you healthy and vibrant, so the best foods to eat are the natural live foods. As some of these man-made foods, especially fast foods, can actually lower your vibration, because over time the fast food takes its toll on your physical body, and before you know it, you are overweight. And one of the significant differences would be your breathing. You start to breathe harder. So now you don't have proper control over the prana you take in through your breath via the Ida and Pingala, which now lowers your vibration. Also, some fast food can block up your sinuses with mucus, so you don't take in the correct flow of prana when you breathe. So by doing so, you've just cut your lifespan in half, as life is not measured by years, but it is measured by how many breaths we take. So it's best to cut out fast food out of your diet completely. But in some cases, people can eat bad foods, but yet they seem unaffected by it. This is where mind over matter comes in. As the mind is stronger than the body, it is easier to break the body, but not so easy to break the mind. So even though a person may eat bad foods, they may still be high vibrational, as their state of mind is still the same, and the mind can overpower the body. So whatever they put into their body doesn't affect them. So strong-minded people can pretty much get away with eating bad foods as long as they stay in a positive frame of mind. But the body still has its limits, as there's only so much it can take before it starts to break down, so the bad food you eat will take its toll on you eventually, and there will be nothing you can do or say in your mind to stop this from happening. Furthermore, some people seem to think that the food we eat is not that important, but if that was so, then why would the creator bother to create foods that have nutritional benefits? Why would the creator make food that is good for us? Why not just create bad foods? So obviously the food we eat is important. It helps to keep our bodies healthy and makes us feel good, which keeps us vibrant. But you still have to take into consideration mind over matter, so the primary foods you eat should be healthy, but your overall diet doesn't have to be that strict. Another thing to bear in mind is that none of these methods mentioned above will be as effective if you are in a low vibrational environment and surrounded by low vibrational people, as this will bring you down and you will not be able to flourish at your highest potential. as you would basically be that one candle trying to light up a dark room. But what you find is that the darkness is so vast that the candle is only able to light up part of the room, but not the entire room, and the darkness will eventually engulf that light, as that one candle doesn't stay lit forever. But if that one candle was surrounded by other candles, then that darkness would cease to exist and the whole room would be lit. So in other words, it is the people that make the environment vibrant, not the environment itself, as it is the positive energy radiating from the people that can affect the atmosphere. But on the other hand, low vibrating people who enter a high vibrational environment will be affected by the vibration. But because there is so much prana and positive energy present in the atmosphere, their chakras will be overwhelmed by this. And a person with less developed chakras takes in more energy than they give out. And also, if this person's chakras are disharmonious, the protective filter will be damaged. So now this person will take in a lot of negative energy. So this will result in a very adverse effect on the environment. This is why you got people who go to positive events like carnivals or special get-togethers and they cause some type of chaos or disturb the peace. This is another reason why you got a lot of these degenerates doing prank videos now, as these people are no good to themselves or to the people around them. So making sure that you surround yourself with high vibrational people is very key in raising your vibration. Also, to determine whether you are vibrating or not depends on how long you need to sleep for. As a low vibrational person will need a lot of sleep. They will need 10 plus hours, as they need a lot of time to recuperate because their level of consciousness is very low, so their spirit needs all that time to unplug from the matrix, so that way they can repair their physical body and other subtle bodies as well. They will also have a very weak aura field, so a lot of negative energies can set in. So they need a lot of sleep just so they can get by in the matrix. Whereas a high vibrational person will need less sleep, such as 4 to 6 hours, as they will have a higher level of consciousness and a much stronger aura, so their spirit doesn't need as much time to recuperate. Also, the positions which you sleep determine the chakras which you are vibrating on. So if you primarily sleep on your stomach, then you are vibrating on the root chakra. If you sleep in the prenatal position, then you are vibrating on the sex chakra. If you sleep on your back, then you are operating on the navel chakra. If you sleep on your left side, then you are operating on the heart chakra. And if you alternate between sleeping on your left side and right side, then you are operating on the throat chakra. But when you are operating on the third eye and other higher chakras, you don't really sleep, but instead you may have frequent rests. But the positions which you sleep don't determine your level of consciousness, it just determines the chakras you were operating on at that time. As a person with a high level of consciousness may sleep on their back, but all this means is that they may have been operating on the navel chakra during that day, or that they may be having some problems with their emotions, which is what the navel chakra deals with. Lastly, what I have noticed is that these new ages put a lot of emphasis on nature, and that it can offer spiritual and psychological benefits, such as grounding you and also raising in vibration, which is why a lot of these new ages talk about earthing, which is basically them walking around barefoot, as they seem to think by doing this they will receive some type of energy from the planet. As these new ages have this delusion that the body can carry a positive charge when away from Earth, and that this positive charge is not good for us, so earthing supposedly returns the body's electrical charge to zero. But see, the truth is that all normal cells in the body carry a negative charge. The ones that carry a positive charge are abnormal cancerous cells. So why would you want to waste your time earthing when the cells in the body have a natural equilibrium of a negative charge? So why would you want to go out your way to try and disrupt that balance? So unless you have cancerous cells in your body, you won't carry a positive charge, so earthing is pointless. Also, some new ages are even going as far to say that walking barefoot allows them to receive energy and information from the planet. When first of all, the only energy that you could be receiving is prana or chi, and prana doesn't enter the body physically but enters the subtle body, or more specifically through the etheric body. That is where the energy transference of prana takes place. Through the nadis is how you receive prana. And as the etheric body extends past the physical body, it doesn't matter whether you are wearing clothes, as the energy transference will still take place, as this involves the etheric body, not the physical body. So that right there is earthing debunked. So I don't want to hear no more talk about earthing, as walking barefoot is just a preference. It offers no spiritual or psychological benefits, but these new ages are trying to justify their insanity with pseudoscience that is not practical, but again, it just makes them feel good. But see, what these new ages don't realize is that earthing can actually be detrimental, as we know that they spray chemtrails and then those chemtrails land on the ground. So now when you go out and walk barefoot, these chemicals can seep up into the pores of your feet. So these chemicals that you new ages were trying to avoid can now enter your body through the soles of your feet. And you new ages thought that you were benefiting yourselves, but you were really doing more potential harm than good. Alright, so let's go to the next one. Music and the chakras. Certain types of music can stimulate the different chakras in the body. This is mainly because the throat chakra is associated with the sense of hearing and with the subtle element of sound, and depending on the type of vibration that a piece of music has, whether that be a higher octave or a lower octave, will determine which chakra is in turn stimulated. So some music hits the lower chakras and some music hits the higher chakras. So basically the kind of music that you want to primarily be listening to is the one that stimulates the higher chakras. And this will help you to raise in consciousness. But the music that hits the lower chakras does have its place as well, but you don't want to primarily be listening to that type of music, as this will keep your consciousness from raising out of the lower chakras. Also, the throat chakra, which in Sanskrit is called Vishuddha, means purity. So the throat chakra is the purification center. And what the throat chakra does is it takes the sound coming from the music and it will try to purify it. So imagine the throat chakra as a sound filter. And music that is impure, meaning that it deals with a lot of unnatural sounds, the throat chakra will try to filter this and take out any of the pure vibrations and frequencies that can be used by the chakras. But if the music is too impure, then the throat chakra will try to expel those vibrations through the nadis, as these sounds and vibrations are not compatible with the chakras. But what can also happen is that during expulsion of the impure vibrations, before they eventually leave the body, they can have an adverse effect on a person's chakra system. Now, the type of music that stimulates the higher chakras is classical music by artists such as Beethoven, Mozart and Tchaikovsky, and also jazz music by Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong. This is because this music deals with natural sounds, and this music has a connotation which promotes peace and has a level of bliss to it. And these are the type of characteristics that are linked to the higher chakras. Now, music that primarily hits the lower chakras is music that uses a lot of drum and bass, such as today's rap music. This type of music mainly hits the root chakra and sex chakra. This is because the bass is very loud and rhythmic, which simulates sex, as when you are aroused your heart starts beating faster. So this bass and upbeat tempo of today's rap music replicates the feeling of arousal, which stimulates the sex chakra, which puts you in the mood for sex and other pleasurable experiences. Furthermore, this bass and upbeat tempo also hits the root chakra, as it stimulates the feeling of adrenaline, because when adrenaline kicks in, your heart rate increases, and the hormone adrenaline is what the root chakra is associated with. So now there is no coincidence that they target classical music towards white people and target rap music towards black people. This is because they want to keep us in the lower chakras, so we cannot raise our consciousness out of the lower chakras, to the point where the only thing black people think about is pleasurable experiences such as sex. But this kind of music does have its place, especially when partaking in the act of sex. But this type of music is not something that you want to be listening to when you are not partaking in the act of sex, as you want to raise your consciousness, not lower it. Now, old school pop music from the likes of Michael Jackson stimulates the heart chakra and the throat chakra. Same with old school R&B and soul music from the likes of James Brown. This is because the lyrics were very heartfelt and you could feel the passion and emotion from the artist, which hits the heart chakra and also stimulates the throat chakra, as listening to that music makes you want to express yourself like the way the artist is expressing themselves in the song. Now, the music that stimulates the navel chakra would be fiery orchestra music, as the navel chakra deals with the element of fire. But on the other hand, there is music that can actually hit all the major chakras, such as real hip hop music. But that's if you can find real hip hop music. But see, this hits all the chakras because it has a rhythmic beats with the drum and bass that hits the lower chakras. Then it may have an R&B singer on the chorus or have a nice hook that hits the heart chakra and throat chakra. Then it will have the conscious lyrics that would hit the third eye and other higher chakras. This is why they have to stop real hip hop music from getting out, because it is so effective in raising the consciousness of black people. In fact, Professor Griff refers to hip hop as high infinite power healing our people. This is why they don't want black people to control rap or hip hop music, as they know that it will be the fastest way to uplift and unite black people. So they have to employ agents to put out low vibrational music that is slowly destroying the minds of our people. Another form of music that hits all the major chakras is reggae, as it may have the nyabingi drum and a nice rhythmic beat which hits the lower chakras, then a smooth hook or chorus that hits the heart and throat chakra, and then conscious lyrics that will stimulate the higher chakras. So reggae music is definitely powerful. You want to listen to people like Bob Marley, Gregory Isaac, and some music by Buju Banton. But this type of music is also very revolutionary. For example, because of reggae music, you got white people with dreadlocks now. That is how powerful and influential that music is. So most importantly, society, better yet humanity, needs to get back into old school reggae and real hip hop music. We need to leave that rap shit alone, as that music is trash and low vibrational. But today's music is pure trash, such as music like dubstep and electronica. That's not even music anymore, it's just noise. It doesn't even stimulate the chakras at all. In fact, that type of music would disrupt the natural harmony of the chakras because the sounds are not natural. This is why you get these zombies going crazy in the raves. This is because the music is disrupting the natural harmony of their chakras. Also, when you compare today's music with the older music, it may seem like the music industry has degenerated over time. But what I have found is that it's not the music that has degenerated, but it is the consciousness of the people that has degenerated. So now the next generation of children growing up don't appreciate good music anymore. This is because their consciousness isn't at a high enough level for them to even recognize good music. So as a result, today's artists would rather get a good beat and just slack on the content of the song, because they know that the people's consciousness is so low that they will accept whatever they put out as long as it has a good beat and ultimately sounds good. As most of the people listening to this music, their consciousness is stuck in the sex chakra, so they are gravitated towards things that feel good and what sounds good, and they will gravitate towards this music without taking into consideration what it is doing to their minds. So why would these artists put in more effort into making a good song with silent content when they can make a half-assed song that appeals to the new generation and make more money doing it? So the music is synonymous with the level of consciousness of the people. So just by judging the type of music that is out now, you can see how the level of consciousness of the masses has degenerated over time. Also, music can be a form of therapy that can help to remove any blockages from that chakra in question. It can also aid in raising your consciousness and your vibration, thus allowing more pranic energy to flow through your chakras. But this depends if you are listening to the right type of music. But once a person reaches a very high vibration and high level of consciousness, they no longer need as much music, as their consciousness will be at a much higher level, so they will be more in tune with their higher self. So now they prefer silence, as this helps them to focus more on their higher chakras, as they would need a high level of focus in order for them to function effectively. They would also just prefer listening to the natural sounds of nature and the surrounding environment, as this becomes their music, and because they have a higher vibration, this is all they really need. On the other hand, a person with a lower level of consciousness and a lower vibration, they need more music, as it acts as a form of therapy for them. They literally can't go a day without music because they need it to get by, but once you reach a high level of consciousness, you don't need as much music. Finally, there are also mantras that you can repeat which will help to stimulate the chakras. These sounds are called bija mantras, which means seed sounds, and these seed sounds are letters in the Sanskrit alphabet. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, each chakra has a letter of the Sanskrit alphabet on its petals. And when you add up all of the petals of the 6 major chakras, they add up to 50. And there are 50 letters in the Sanskrit alphabet. Now at the top of the 6 major chakras is the Nirvana chakra. And the bija mantra for the Nirvana chakra is known as pranava, which is the sound of Om. Now the pranava is the primordial sound from which all the mantras arise from. It was this sound that denotes the beginning of the universe. Also, another important thing about the pranava is the dot with the crescent moon, which is known as the bindu. And the dot is known as the bindu trigger point. But what's important about this is that the bindu point in tantric cosmology is the cosmic bindu seed, which is known as Hiranyagarbha, which means golden egg. And from this cosmic bindu seed is where everything in creation originates from. It is also said that every object, large or small, has a bindu seed from which it arises. Furthermore, in tantric cosmology, the universe goes through cycles where different parts of the universe gets absorbed back into the cosmic bindu seed for creation to then start again anew. In addition, the Sahasrara chakra has a supreme Bindu point located in the center. This supreme Bindu is a void region, a gateway to nothingness, but has the potential of becoming anything. Thus, the supreme Bindu is the source of the entire chakra system. Also, because of this, the Sahasrara chakra contains all the bija mantras. Now, the bija mantras for each chakra are as follows. For the root chakra, you want to say Long. Then for the sex chakra, you want to say Vang. Then for the navel chakra, you want to say Rang. Then for the heart chakra, you want to say Yang. Then for the throat chakra, you want to say Hung. And for the Ajna Chakra, you want to say or you could say Kasam. And for the Navel Chakra, it's also But the true Sahasrara Chakra, located above the head, encompasses all of the mantras. So because of this, the Sahasrara Chakra is stimulated through silence. Also, the reason why the M is constant, as that is a vowel in Sanskrit, and the M is what gives the mantra its power. And each time you repeat a mantra, you want to extend the M of each mantra. So for example, you want to say as you want to make sure that you extend the M, as that M has a vibration. You also want to focus on that particular chakra when you repeat the mantra. So you want to focus on the Nirvana chakra when you say Alright then, so let's go to the next one. The truth about crystals and gemstones. Crystals are good for the chakras as they have their own energy frequency that connects with the energy frequency of the chakras and can help to heal them and dissolve any blockages that may occur. But to know what crystals to use for a certain chakra depends on the color of that crystal corresponding to the color of that chakra. One of the misconceptions that people have of crystals is that they amplify one's own energy and can give you special powers, which is false. All crystals do is dissolve blockages in the chakras and can heal certain parts of the body by absorbing negative energies in the etheric body, which in turn heals the physical body. Now, from my experience with crystals and gemstones, I can honestly say that they do work. But what I have found is that the only crystals that work are the ones that are actually needed for therapy of a certain chakra. For example, if you have an open Nirvana chakra, then gemstones that are meant to help the Nirvana chakra, such as amethyst, will not work. As like I said, all crystals do is help to dissolve blockages in the chakras and heal the body. So the only crystals that will work are the ones that are suited for an area that needs healing. If the chakra in question doesn't need healing, then the crystal literally won't do anything except for look pretty. Another thing is that in order for you to receive benefits of crystals, you have to be at a certain level of consciousness to be even able to use them. So your chakras would have to be already activated and developed to a certain extent for you to receive the benefits of crystals. Also, crystals don't activate the chakras either. So for example, if you try to use lapis lazuli on your Ajna Chakra that is not activated, then nothing will happen, as the chakra must already be activated and developed to a certain degree. So that way it radiates more energy, and the energy frequency of your chakra can be picked up by the crystal. So that way the crystal's own energy can match the frequency that your chakras give out. So there can now be a perfect energy exchange. As energy is never lost, it just changes form. So what crystals do is they take the negative energy in your chakras or etheric body, and then it exchanges it with its own positive energy. So what is really happening is a positive negative energy exchange. So now, because of this energy exchange, the crystal you have used now needs to be cleansed of the negative energy that now resides in it. So the way to cleanse crystals and gemstones, from my experience, is that you take a small container and place the crystal in there that you want to cleanse, and you fill that container with lukewarm water. Then you put some sea salt in the container as well. Then you want to leave the container alone for like an hour. But if you have more than one crystal in there, then you may want to leave it for 2 hours or more. And once it is done, you dry it off with a cloth and dispose of the salt water in the container. But what I like to do is put the sea salt in the container first, then fill it with lukewarm water, then put the crystals in there, then put some sea salt on top. So that way the entire crystal is covered with sea salt from top to bottom. Now the reason why this works is because the sea salt is also a crystal. So it goes through a positive negative energy exchange with the crystals, which is why you should then dispose of the sea salt after each cleansing. Also, when you get a new crystal, you want to cleanse it, as it would have picked up negative energies of the previous owner or the person who may have had it before you. So what I like to do is cleanse it with sea salt overnight, so it is ready to be used the next day. Another thing I like to do is, after the crystal has finished cleansing, I put it by the window in the sun for an extra hour, so that way the crystal can be loaded with pure energy from the sun. Also, what you have to bear in mind is that some crystals lose their color if cleansed by using sea salt. So another way to cleanse crystals like this is to just expose them to sunlight for about an hour or so. Now the crystals and gemstones that worked for me in my experience was rose quartz, malachite, kainite and angel quartz, aka opal quartz. I used the kainite to help clear my throat chakra, and I used the rose quartz and malachite to help heal my heart chakra. What I did with the kainite was place it under my cushion, that way when I wake up in the morning my throat chakra will be clear. And what I did with the rose quartz was place it in the center of my chest. It can be placed over clothes or you can place it on bare skin, it just depends what you're comfortable with. Now the first time I placed the rose quartz on my chest, I could feel a heavy weight being pressed down on my chest, even though the crystal was very light. This is because this weight that I felt bearing down on my chest was all the built up emotional attachments that I have accumulated over time. So if you do this for the first time, you may also feel a heavy weight bearing down on your chest, but don't be alarmed, as this is just all the built up stress and emotions on the heart chakra being brought to light. But also this feeling can be quite overwhelming for the first time, so you definitely want to take your time with this. Another thing to take into consideration is that this will only work if you have an already activated heart chakra. If you don't, then most likely when you put the crystal or gemstone on your chest, nothing will happen. So the next thing I did was focus all my attention on the heart chakra, and I meditated on what may have caused these emotional ties in my heart chakra. And I thought about it, and then when I pinpointed what I think may have caused it, I then focused on the feelings and how that situation or person made me feel. By doing this, it allows you to fully expose all of your emotions and not hold anything back, so that way you can get a deep cleansing. The next thing I did was imagine all of the emotional ties being lifted and expelled into the rose quartz. Then I imagined the positive energy from the rose quartz entering my heart chakra. Now you want to do this for about an hour. Then remove the quartz crystal from your chest and take about 15 to 20 minutes to draw your attention away from the negative emotions that cause the blockage, and just reflect and meditate on the positive emotions. But during this time, it is best to meditate on the colors green and pink. This is because they correspond to the color of the heart chakra, and also because the color pink promotes soft and tenderness, while the color green promotes peace and harmony. So you want to come up with interesting meditations that involve those two colors. But from my experience, I found the color pink to be the most effective, as this color promotes soft and tenderness, which can envelop the heart chakra and help to ease the pain that may have been brought up with the negative emotions. Now, depending on how much emotional stress that you've accumulated over time will determine how many times you should do this. It took me about 4 one-hour sessions over a span of 2 weeks to fully heal my heart chakra. And after each session, you want to cleanse the rose quartz thoroughly with lukewarm water and sea salt, and also expose it to sunlight. In addition, what I used for my heart chakra was a 6-inch rose quartz point. This was a good size because it covers pretty much the whole chest. So this will cleanse the heart chakra and any surrounding minor chakras as well. Also, if you have a crystal with a point, what you want to do is point it upwards, so that way all the energy flows up and out the nirvana chakra and doesn't block any other chakras. I would also recommend that everybody get themselves a rose quartz and malachite. What I have is malachite gemstone beads that I wear, which helps to heal the heart chakra. I highly recommend these because the heart chakra is the center chakra, so this is where all the stress and the emotional ties that you may experience in the matrix manifest themselves. So it is important that you have a way to heal this chakra, so that way it doesn't affect the harmony of the other chakras. Secondly, I would recommend that you get a clear quartz or an opal quartz, so that way you can cleanse the malachite, as malachite loses its color when cleansed with water and sea salt. So what you do is wrap the malachite around the opal quartz if you are using the malachite beads, or just place the malachite with the quartz crystal, then expose it to sunlight. The reason why this works is because the quartz crystal contains all spectrums of light. So when the sunlight hits the quartz crystal, it then radiates energy that will match the malachite, so a positive negative energy exchange can take place. Also, it is important to cleanse the quartz crystal with water and sea salt after you do this. Also, because the quartz crystal contains all spectrums of light, this crystal can be used to heal the other chakras as well. But if you want a more precise cleansing, then you should use a crystal which has a primary color that matches the chakra you want to cleanse. Another thing is that when you see these chakra bracelets and necklaces that have all these different rainbow colored gemstones, that is some new age bullshit. Because remember how I said crystals only work if the chakra in question needs healing or is blocked? And if the chakra is not blocked or disharmonious, then nothing will happen. So if you buy a crystal bracelet with all the different colored gemstones, but you only have issues with your heart chakra, then the rest of those stones literally won't do anything. And no, they won't amplify the effects of the other stones either. So you are better off just buying a crystal or gemstone that is actually needed for the therapy of a certain chakra. Also, when buying crystals, for example a rose quartz, you may come across two rose quartz that are both the same size, but yet one is more expensive than the other. The only difference is that one of them, the color is more richer and vibrant. This is because these new ages are trying to make it seem that because the color of this rose quartz is much more richer and vibrant than the other rose quartz, then somehow the energy given off by this rose quartz will be much purer than the other rose quartz. That right there couldn't be further from the truth. Because how can one rose quartz have purer energy than another rose quartz if they are both made up of the same atoms and they both came out of the same earth? So please do not fall for this deception, as these new ages are basically trying to add value to something that really has little value, as a quartz crystal is the most abundant crystal out here. So these new ages are basically trying to pimp people. So in other words, if you buy an expensive rose quartz, then best believe you are just paying for the prettier color and nothing more. Another thing to bear in mind is that the crown center, aka the Nirvana chakra, and the crown chakra, aka the Sahasrara chakra, don't form blockages. It is either active or inactive. So that means that crystals that are meant to heal the Nirvana chakra will not work for you if your Nirvana chakra is already active. So in other words, once your Nirvana chakra is active, it is not necessary to buy any crystals for the Nirvana chakra. But see, this is what these new ages won't tell you, as they want to sell you their products. But I'm telling you this from my experience, as I bought some lapis lazuli for the Ajna Chakra and amethyst for my Nirvana chakra, and both of those gemstones did nothing except for look pretty. This is because my Nirvana chakra was already active and my Ajna Chakra was already harmonious. Also, blockages are not easily formed in the Ajna Chakra, as once you have been granted a new level of perception and can see something, it is very difficult to unsee what you have just saw. So you should bear this in mind when buying crystals and gemstones for the Ajna Chakra. Furthermore, you don't want to get caught in the crystal trap, which is where a person hoards a whole bunch of crystals to the point where they have some sort of crystal collection, and they convince themselves that by having all these crystals in their home, it makes their living space more spiritual, when really all they do is just look pretty. So the only crystals you really need is a good rose quartz, malachite gemstone beads, and some type of clear quartz or opal quartz to cleanse the malachite, and anything else is just unnecessary. Now lastly, for those people who find it difficult to meditate, the reason for this is because you lack the ability to focus. As I mentioned in the previous slide, is that there are 4 stages to concentration. First, there is attention, then a focused attention turns into concentration, then a prolonged concentration becomes meditation, and then a deep meditation becomes samadhi. So you have to be able to focus your attention and concentrate before you can meditate. So here is a free activity that you can do to help build up your focus. You don't need any products, all you need is this free activity. So what you want to do is first find a quiet, secluded location in your home, free from distraction, no TV, no music, nothing. Now you want to start off with about 10 minutes, but if you find it really difficult, then you can do 5 minutes. Now what you want to do is focus on an object in the room you are in. And if there are no objects, then just focus on a spot on the wall. Then what you want to do is stare at this object and just focus your attention onto that object. Describe that object in your mind. What does it look like? When did you buy that object? If not you, then who bought it? What is the object used for? Who put it there? And you want to ask yourself all of these questions pertaining to the object, and let this object take your thoughts on a journey. The best objects are the ones that are most unusual, the ones that allow your imagination to run wild. So it is more effective to do it with objects rather than just a spot on the wall. But if you choose to do the spot on the wall, then you want to ask questions like, who built this wall? What is the purpose of this wall? If the wall is painted, then ask yourself, who painted this wall? Why was the wall painted in this color? And again, you just want to let your mind wander and let your thoughts take you on a journey. Now after you get good at this, you can now do this for 2 objects instead of 1. And you can do this for 20 minutes, but if you are still struggling, then you can do this for 10 minutes. And what you do is spend half the time focusing on one of the objects, and then the other half focusing on the other object. And then you do the same as last time. Ask yourself questions about the objects. You can also get creative with it. And rather than spend half the time focusing on one object, you can spend the full time encasing both objects. And what you can do is compare both objects and what makes that object stand out more than the other object, and so on and so forth. Then when you get really good at this, you can now do this with objects and living things that are moving. So what you do is you can either go outside or peer through your window and focus on the wildlife in your garden. And you can do this for about half an hour to an hour and just focus on the wildlife, such as the butterflies, the birds, etc. And just ask yourself questions like, what is he up to? Where is he going? Why does this animal do what it does? And if you don't have any wildlife around you, then you can do this with the planes or vehicles that pass you by. And you can ask yourself questions like, where is that plane going? How many people are on that plane? Or if it is a car, you can say, where is this car going? Who is driving this car? How old is this car? Also, when you really get good at this, you can start focusing on objects or things and use your intuition and third eye to break down the science of this object and how you think this object may work, or how you think it was made, and also why you think this object was made the way it was. And you could critique the design of the object. Also, if it is an animal, then you can take the time to break down the science of its anatomy and ask yourself, why does it move around so quickly? What's up with its tail? Why is it so fluffy? What does this creature eat? And it doesn't matter if your assumptions are wrong. All that matters is that you're able to focus your attention onto something and that you can use your intuition and third eye effectively. And by the time you get to this level, you should have no problem with being able to meditate. So that right there is a free activity that you can do to help build up your focus and also visualization skills for meditation. You don't need to buy any products. All you need is your will and some level of patience. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Relationships and the chakras. Your relationships and the people that you come into contact with are based on the development of your chakras, in contrast to the development of their chakras. So in other words, you will attract people depending on what chakras are less prevalent within you. For example, if you are a very high chakra oriented person, then that means that you will most likely be less prevalent in your lower chakras. So you will most likely attract people who primarily vibrate on their lower chakras. That way your chakras can complement each other. So basically, when you have a relationship with a person or a group of people, that relationship becomes a single unit or a machine, and each person will have their role in keeping that machine stable. For instance, the person with the more developed third eye will be the thinker of the group. Then the person with the more developed heart chakra will be the peacemaker, and the person with the more developed root chakra will be the defender, and the one who bails everyone else out of trouble. This is why, in my experience, I found that I would always attract people who were primarily operating in their lower chakras, as I was always high chakra oriented, as my third eye was more prevalent. Also, I always had a more developed heart chakra, so I would constantly find myself in give-take relationships where I would countlessly give and they would take. This is because the heart chakra, once activated and developed, radiates more energy, and a heart chakra that is less developed draws in more energy than it gives out. Also, because of this developed heart chakra, I would constantly find myself in positions where I will be giving some sort of counseling to people. This is because I was able to provide some form of emotional stability, because the developed heart chakra makes you emotionally stronger and you can now relate to people and empathize with them. You also become very compassionate as well. But on the other hand, I have always been less prevalent in my throat chakra and had difficulty expressing myself through verbal communication, so the people I attracted were always loud, as they had more developed throat chakras, so they became my voice when I was unable to speak up for myself. But on the other hand, I am a very good listener, so whenever they would be talking, I would be listening, so I never missed a word. So as you can see, each of our chakras complement each other, and where one was lacking, the other would fill that gap, so it would be a perfectly smooth running unit. Also, what can happen is that one person in the group may soon develop in the chakras that they may have been lacking, so now the machine becomes unstable. This is where your fallouts and disagreements come in. This is because your chakras are no longer complementing each other, but instead they are clashing. So it now becomes time for the unit to split up. And this person will now have to attract new people that are in contrast to their newly developed chakras. So really, the people you come into contact with that you call friends are but a means for each other's chakra development. And when you have a fallout with a friend that is unprecedented, that is a good sign that you have now developed in the chakra that you were lacking, and now you are clashing with theirs. So now you must find new companions that allow you to further develop and also for you to help them develop. But this doesn't mean that you cannot still keep in contact with them. All this means is that it is no longer necessary for you to be a part of the same unit. So when you understand this, basically what this means is that if you still hang around with the same people since high school, then you are doing something wrong, as you should have developed in the chakras that you were lacking in. So now your chakras should be in conflict with theirs. But the fact that you are still able to hang around with them, this shows that you were not developing in your chakras, because if you was, then your chakras would now be in conflict rather than complementing each other. So now you would no longer be able to stand to be around each other, as it would start to become more uncomfortable. This is because similar energies are now clashing. So you may end up becoming more distant with each other. This is where you get the term grown apart. This is because you would have grown or developed in the chakras that you were lacking in, so you no longer need to be a part of that unit anymore. But see, you were told that if you still had the same friends since high school, then this was a good thing, as it shows that you haven't changed. But no, this is a bad thing, as you changing shows that you are developing. But if you stay the same, then this shows that you are stagnant and not moving forward with your spiritual development. But in some cases, more than one person within the unit can develop in the chakras which they were lacking in. So what happens is that they can still be friends, but now the friendship goes to another level. And rather than do the same things they did when they were in high school, they may just have each other around for support when times get rough. This also works with family as well, because the reason why you incarnate into a specific family is so that you can develop a certain part of your spirituality, as you chose a family that you incarnate into specifically so that your spirit could gain a certain experience. For example, a mom may have an active but disharmonious heart chakra, so she will constantly give without taking into consideration of her own needs. So she may have a son who has a less developed heart chakra, and he'll be a person that likes to take, as his heart chakra won't be fully developed, and he will take in more energy than he gives out. But when you get deeper into it, in order to help the mom's heart chakra develop and the son's chakra to develop, the son may have a disharmonious root chakra, so he lives a reckless life, and he's able to manifest things, but they are based solely on his selfish needs. So this son may now want to take things from the mom, and because of the mom's disharmonious heart chakra, she will constantly give to the son without thinking about it. But because the son's root chakra is disharmonious, he will take things from the mom, whether that be material things or time and energy, without regard for the mom's own needs. So now this will in turn help the mom, because she will have to learn to not give out her time and energy so easily, and first take into consideration of her own needs. She would have learnt this from her son, because he took from her without regard of her own well-being. So now the mom begins to harmonize her heart chakra, and she becomes more reluctant with her time, and this will affect the son, because in order for him to get what he wants, he now has to take into consideration his mom's needs, which is a form of empathy, which in turn will help him to develop in the heart chakra. And also when he does this, he will also gain a more harmonious root chakra, because when he wants to manifest his needs, he will have to take into consideration the needs of others. So the things he manifests will not be based on his selfish needs. Also, because of this developed heart chakra, he wants to take less things from people and instead will want to give to people. Furthermore, you may be the only conscious person in your family, and you may have siblings who are unconscious. But what I have found is that the reason why you chose to incarnate into this family is because their ignorance and unconsciousness will help neutralize your ego, as in their ignorance they may take your spirituality for a joke, simply because they literally cannot perceive the benefits of what you are doing, because they don't have the eyes to see. So by them making a joke out of it, it actually neutralizes your ego, as when you start getting into the knowledge and you begin to come across more truth, it is very easy for all that to go to your head, and you begin to develop an inflated sense of self. And if you were an only child, then there would be a higher possibility of this happening. So what these unconscious siblings would do is they will interact with you the way they did back when you were not fully conscious, and they may also bring up stuff that you used to do during your ignorant years, which will neutralize the inflated ego that you may have developed, and it humbles you and brings you back down to their level. Yes, you will still be conscious and spiritual, but by being around them helps to stop you from developing an inflated ego that makes you think you are better than them when you grew up with them. So don't neglect your unconscious family members just because they are unconscious, as in their ignorance they are actually helping you. Besides, worst case scenario, you might end up a 46-year-old man sitting on his bed with an ego so big that he actually thinks that he is some type of messenger. So really, the spirit works in mysterious ways. What might look like a bad situation at first glance is really a good situation. Another thing is that you may have friends or family members who are very low vibrational and they have underdeveloped chakras, so their chakras take in more energy than they give out. And what may happen is that rather than develop their own chakras to be able to take in and give out more energy, they will just come to you for energy, as you have more developed chakras than them. So your chakras will give out more energy, which will give energy to them. This is where you get your energy vampires from. And it is best to be able to spot these types of people as soon as possible so you can deal with them appropriately. Now, to know who's an energy vampire, one common thing is that they will first come to you with a genuine problem, wanting your opinion or advice. And normally it will be some type of emotional problem, as this is a type of energy that they feed off. But after you give them advice, how you can determine if they are energy vampires is if they keep coming back to you and the situation that they asked you to give them advice about has not changed. This is when you know that you are dealing with an energy vampire. Because they don't actually want to fix the situation, they just want to suck the emotional energy from you. And in some cases, their situation may actually get worse each time. This is when you know you're dealing with a real vampire. And you want to get out of that relationship as soon as possible, as these types of people will suck your energy dry and leave you drained and feeling weak. Also, this person's protective web that filters out negative energies from entering the chakra may be damaged. So they will take in more negative energies and will also radiate these negative energies as well. So being around these types of people for prolonged periods of time can actually be detrimental to your spiritual vibration. So the best way to deal with them, from what I have found, is that when they come to you with a problem, you don't want to give them all the answers. You let them figure it out for themselves. You still give them advice, but all you do is point them in the right direction. You don't actually take them there. So that way they won't keep coming back, as these energy vampires are really just drifters, lost souls trying to find a home. And if you hold their hand and make them feel at home, then they won't leave. So you give them advice, but you also keep your distance as well. So by doing this shows you are still helping them out, but you're not fully engaging yourself in their situation, as it's still their own journey and they must travel that road on their own. Now, your relationships and the people you come into contact with also plays a defining role on your personality through your navel chakra. This is because the navel chakra is receptive to vibrations around you and deals with your emotions and shapes your personality. So some parts of your partner's personality may bring out parts of your personality that are not normally present, but only exist when you are with them. The reason why this is important is because your partner's emotions will act as a reflection of your own emotions. So this is how relationships can teach you about yourself. So for example, if you are with someone and you believe that he is an ass or that he is selfish, then maybe the truth of the matter is that you are the one who is an ass or the one that is selfish. As the traits that you see in your partner are just a reflection of the traits that are present within yourself. This also goes for negative traits as well. So the personality traits that you dislike about your partner are the personality traits that you dislike most about yourself. As the law of attraction is what brought you together. So you wouldn't have came together if you were not similar people. So you would have to have similar traits for you to even connect with each other. So if you think your partner is an ass, then maybe you are also an ass, because one partner can't be an ass and the other not an ass. Because if that was so, then you wouldn't have even connected with each other in the first place. So this just shows you how your relationship with the opposite sex is just a way for you to learn about yourself. In a relationship, the man is able to learn from the woman about the feminine energy that exists inside of him, and the woman can learn from the man about the masculine energy that is present inside of her. So in a relationship, it is good to be honest with yourself, and rather than just blame all the mishaps on your partner, you should look inside yourself and see whether or not this may partly be your fault as well. Another key thing about relationships is that it is very important to listen to your partner. Both partners should be able to make compromises for one another in order to make the relationship work. Also, it is very important to listen. The man should be able to humble himself and listen to the woman, and the woman should be able to humble herself and listen to the man. There is also a spiritual reason behind breakups in relationships and why they occur, as breakups in relationships, believe it or not, are actually mutual. But most people in relationships are caught up in the moment and are unable to understand why the relationship had to end. Because when you first connected with your partner, that was a mutual agreement, meaning that you both had a thing for each other. If you didn't, then that connection wouldn't have even took place. So when you break up, it is also mutual as well. So contrary to popular belief, both partners had a hand in the breakup, not just one person. For example, in your typical relationship, it normally ends because one person may cheat on the other person. For instance, the man may cheat on the woman and then she breaks it off with him. But see, even in that situation, the breakup was mutual. Because yes, the man may have cheated on the woman, but the woman is no saint either. Because in a relationship, the other partner is just a reflection of yourself. They are just the polar opposite of you. So if the man cheated on the woman, then the woman also cheated as well. As somewhere down the line, she cheated herself. As she knew before she got with him that he was a cheater. She saw the way he was with other women, but that is what turned her on in the first place. That is what made her want him more. So she cheated herself out of a good relationship with a good man, all because she wanted to be with a cheater. But see, when a relationship like that ends, the woman would normally blame the man and say it was his fault, but she also played a part in it as well. But she was unable to look inside herself and see that the problem started within. As she first cheated herself, so that relationship was to teach her that she needs to start respecting herself more and make better decisions about choosing the men she wants to be with. This also teaches the man that he needs to learn to respect women more and not to treat them as just objects. So both of them came together as they needed to learn a lesson about respect. But the man may have had a blocked heart chakra, which in turn sent too much energy down into his sex chakra, making it disharmonious, which thus increased his urge for sex. So his need for love was confused with his urge for sex. Now the woman may have had a blocked navel chakra and a disharmonious heart chakra, so she was unable to know what true love is and gave out her love too easily. She also would have had a lack of self-worth. So really, a relationship ends how the relationship began. It started with her cheating herself, then the man cheated on her, as a relationship is just a reflection of yourself. So when the man cheated on her, that was just a reflection of how she first cheated herself. As the whole purpose of a relationship between the opposite sex is so that you can learn about the opposing sexual energy inside of you. So that way you can understand its nature. But everything down here is just an experience, and once you've gained from that experience what you was meant to gain from it, you can move forward. As this goes back to what I said about friendships and the chakras, and how once you develop in the chakras that you were lacking, you become more distant with each other. Simply because you both gain what was necessary for you to gain in that friendship. And now you are able to move forward. But after the relationship ends, you can still remain friends, but for you to cooperate in a close proximity environment such as a relationship is no longer necessary. As relationships are not supposed to last forever. I know some of you may not like to hear this, but nothing physical lasts forever. Also, one thing to note is that if you are in a relationship with your partner for a long time, it doesn't mean that you are doing something wrong, as you are not just developing your chakras like how you would in a friendship. You are also learning about yourself and the nature of the opposing sexual energy that resides within you. So being in a relationship for a long time just means that your process for development is ongoing and you are still learning about yourself. Furthermore, a lot of people often get confused with the term opposites attract. But what it's talking about is polar opposites that attract, meaning that it is still the same pole, but each side is just a different expression of that same pole. So you and your partner would have to be the same in order for you to attract. You would have to have similar characteristics for the attraction to even take place. Now on the flip side, for those people who may not have been in many relationships with the opposite sex, there are many spiritual reasons for this. The first being that a relationship acts as a mirror for yourself. So the people who are commonly in relationships, this is because they need this type of hands-on approach. They need to be able to see an exact reflection of themselves in order for them to be able to understand themselves. Whereas you didn't need that sort of close-up hands-on approach to understand yourself, as you are very honest about yourself and are able to look inside yourself and see what needs to be developed. And you didn't need to be in a relationship with the opposite sex in order for you to do this. So if you are not in a relationship, don't feel down just because of what society has told you. As the reason why you are not in one is because, quite frankly, you don't need to be in one. As you already understand the feminine aspect of yourself, and as a woman you already understand the masculine aspect of yourself. The whole point of a relationship is for learning about yourself, and if you already have a level of knowledge about yourself, then you don't need to be in one. It's just that simple. But also in some cases you may not be in a relationship now but will be in one in later life. The reason for this is because you must first gain the required knowledge of self on your own. Then once you get to a certain level of knowledge of self, then you can enter into a relationship to learn more about yourself. What can also happen is that the reason why you have not been in many relationships is because you are at a high level of knowledge of self, but you are waiting for your twin flame to reach his or her level of knowledge of self, so that way you can connect with each other, as you would both have to be at the same stage in order to connect. Then when you do come together, you will be at a completed stage, and so will your opposite sex, so now you can complement each other. So she will be the female aspect of you and you will be the masculine aspect of her. On the other hand, If you are a person that may have gone through a lot of relationships, the reason being is so that you could build up character and personality for when you eventually meet your twin flame. So that way you're able to connect with them. Because the stage you are at right now, you are not ready to meet them. Also, they may be spiritually ahead of you. So you need to catch up before you can connect. Also, in some cases, you may meet your twin flame at an early stage in both of your lives, so that way you could build that prerequisite type of connection, so when you are ready to meet once again, you can connect much easier. For example, by the time you meet your twin flame, you may still have some work to do on yourself, but because you built that level of rapport at an early age, your opposite sex may be able to forgive those flaws and you'll be able to connect with each other. Now, on a final note, the people that a person engages into intercourse with says a lot about a person's character and is also a reflection of yourself. This is because people don't have sex with just anybody. Even though it may seem that way, it is not actually the case. If this was so, then you would see people having sex with animals more than they are having sex with humans. But the fact that you don't see this shows that people are specifically choosing who they want to engage in the act of sex with. Whether or not this is a subconscious choice, they are still the ones choosing it. For example, a woman may say that a man is a good for nothing, but yet she would still continue to have sex with this person after she knows that he is a good for nothing. So what does this say about her? That's because she's also a good for nothing as well. This is also the same with men, as some men say that a girl is a cheap whore and that she's a dirty slut. But if she is just a dirty slut, then why do you keep laying down with her? This is because they are just as dirty as she is. See, they think that she's the only one who's dirty. But then, when they go up inside of her, somehow they are not dirty. That doesn't make sense. But if you look at sex from a spiritual standpoint, rather than a physical standpoint, you would understand that the man is the yang and the woman is the yin. And when you come together, it is an act of sexual union, where the feminine energy inside of her mixes with the masculine energy inside of you, which are both polar opposites that attract to each other like magnets. So in other words, you are who you have sex with. And that goes for animals as well. Okay, so that's the end of part 2. Stay tuned for the final part, which is part 3. Okay? Peace.